Hey guys, so before I start this video about why I cut my family off, I just want to make it very clear that this was not an overnight process, that this took over 2 years for me to be in a place where I can talk about it without getting emotional or feeling like it hurts me again. And I was also going through therapy as this was happening, so thank God, because I think that if it wasn't for my therapist, I probably would have had an emotional breakdown. But because of her and just what God has done, like, it has allowed me to slowly be able to heal myself from the trauma that I experienced when I was little. Growing up, I lived in the house with my mom, my dad, and my two brothers. No one in the house wanted to have a relationship with me. My brothers used to make fun of me all the time. They made fun of my hair, make fun of my body, of the clothes that I wore, everything. They never included me in anything. They never wanted me to be around them. My younger brother is 1 year older than me. My oldest brother is 6 years older than me. My parents, they never interacted with me really. Like, they never read to me or spent time with me doing anything. The only time they really interacted with me was when they were yelling at me for something that I did wrong, or they were tag teaming me by like if I got in trouble in school, my mom she would scream at me, she would beat me, and then my dad would come in and he'd follow up by screaming and beating me. Or sometimes they would just do it together. So a lot of the times, like, I was told I was a bad child, I wasn't gonna amount to anything, I was nothing like my brothers, that there's something wrong with me, that I'm nothing like them. That was basically like the record that was played over and over again. So that's what I started to believe, that I was just defective. So as I got older and they couldn't really put their hands on me, it just became verbal abuse or emotional abuse. Like, I was always isolated. I was never allowed to go do anything with my friends for absolutely no reason, just because my mom didn't want me to do anything. Your brother, who was a year older than me, going to school with him, I had found out that he had been talking about me and like making fun of me to other people about the things that I do at home. And I was just really I was really blown away when I found out that he was talking about me, because that was something that never crossed my mind. Even though we weren't really close, I had just never thought, like, let me talk about my brother to other people. That was just something that never was even a thought to me. So when I found out that he was talking about me behind my back to other people, it just crushed me, and it just, again, made me feel that isolation and that rejection. And my older brother, once he went to college, I had really never heard from him. I didn't talk to him often. I didn't really know anything about him. He kept in touch with my brother. I would talk to him on the phone sometimes, but like, we didn't have a close relationship. As I got older, I just realized that they're not going to change their behavior towards me, because they don't know anything about me to know how their behavior affects me. So when I turned 30 about 3 years ago, that's when I decided when I started therapy, that's when I decided, like, I'm gonna start creating boundaries for them, because not having that emotional support from my family as I got older, and when things would go on, it became really hard. They would talk amongst each other about me, but they would never talk to me about me. So they would just assume that they knew what was happening in my life or the things that I was going through, and they would talk about it, and gossip about me essentially behind my back. And that was just something that it was just really traumatizing, and I just needed emotional support that wasn't available to me. To be treated the way that I deserved to be treated, it was going to be something that they weren't able to do. For example, something that I recently had to talk to my therapist about was my brother's remark to me at a wedding. So I had not seen my brother in probably 2 years, hadn't had more than a few text message conversations with him. He took it upon himself to tell me at a wedding in front of a table of family members that I need to eat a sandwich because I'm too skinny. Now, if he would have known me, he would have known that I've been dealing with self-esteem issues since I was very little, because of the way that they treated me, and that I had worked really hard to accept myself and to love myself the way that I was. And saying something like that is very detrimental to, I wasn't in a place where that wouldn't affect me at that point, but he wouldn't know that because he didn't know me. Like, I was done with this relationship because he's not going to change, and I'm tired of trying to explain, like, why I deserve to be treated like a human. my entire life, my family never knew the things that I've experienced, the things that I've gone through. And instead of addressing the issues with me or talking to me about things, they would just make assumptions, and then they would talk amongst themselves about the things that I was going through. I would catch wind of it, and it would just, at first it would really bother me, but then I just realized, like, these are just who these people are. Because I am an introvert in a very extroverted family, I am automatically the odd man out. I keep my circle small. I don't care who you are. If I feel as if there's something iffy about you, I don't need you to be close to me. All I need is like one or two people that I can confide in, and that's enough for me. So through this process of dealing with this with my family, I was able to grow relationships with some of my other first cousins. I have a very large family. I don't know if I said that, but there's like 25 first cousins. There's about 4 of them who I have a really good relationship with, who I confide in often, who I talk to all the time. But I don't maintain relationships with people who are questionable. And if I feel like you're using me, or if I feel like you're talking bad about me, or things that I tell you, you're telling other people, I'm not gonna give you a chance to like outdo yourself or your previous behavior. I'm not gonna tolerate it. Like, I'm not gonna wait for you to do something worse. I'm just not gonna deal with it. And people don't like that, so they instead of taking responsibility maybe for the things that they could have done better, it's always my fault. I'm like, lonely and bitter, and I'm evil. I just keep people close to me that I can trust. And if I gotta side eye you at any point, we just can't be friends. We just can't rock. So this is how I ended up being able to distance myself. And again, I want to say that this was not simple. This was not overnight. This took over 2 years worth of therapy and work to get to a point where I'm like this now, where I'm not emotional. It doesn't affect me. So the first thing I had to do was accept that they were never going to acknowledge or apologize for what they did. And even if they did give me an apology, it's never going to undo the things that have happened, the times that I've cried, the loneliness that I felt, none of that. I had to accept that they weren't going to acknowledge it, and I would never get an apology, and I had to make myself be okay with that. And that took a lot of work. But eventually I was able to accept they're not going to apologize. And if they do apologize, it's not going to be what I want. I knew it wasn't going to be what I wanted, because they don't understand the depth of the things that they've done. I had to be okay with being misunderstood and talked about in my process of creating boundaries. I had to be okay with being the biatch. I had to be okay with them going behind my back making assumptions. I had to be okay with them gossiping about me because they ain't got nothing better to do with their time. That's fine, you guys. And I think this is probably the easiest step. Go ahead, talk about me, because I'm gonna be all the way over here minding my business while you over here talking about me, because you ain't got nothing else to do. Then I had to communicate my boundaries with them. I had to let them know I don't want to talk to you. Don't put me in group chats. Don't email me. Don't communicate with me right now, because I don't want to speak to you. That's where we are right now, and that's where I'm going to stay until further notice. But constantly they would put me in these huge family group chats. They'd be emailing me. Give them an inch, they take a mile. I wanted them to still have a relationship with my daughter, but through that, like, they would even find ways to just try to get in anyway. So I went on a block. I invited them all to the block party, okay? All of them got blocked because I was tired of dealing with it. You don't get to cross my lines. When I've already given you months to talk to me, months to try to get this resolved, and you decided not to take up that offer, and now on your time, when I've already decided, like, I'm done with the situation, now you want to try to make amends, I'm not doing that. We don't have time for that. Like, these are my boundaries. These are going to stay my boundaries, and you're just going to make it worse if you keep continually line crossing, because then you're just not going to have no way to get in touch with me. The last step into how I created these boundaries is the hardest step for me, and it was basically mourning them like they were no longer here. And I laugh because it's like a nervous laugh, but I had to act like my family died, essentially, because they were just so disrespectful to me when I just said, like, I want nothing to do with y'all right now. It just became to the point where I had to block them and act like they don't exist. So I literally have no, I mean, it would be different if I had like a really good relationship with them at first. But I didn't have like a solid foundation with them. So I just had to act like they don't exist. And this was hard for me because it was like all the expectations that I wanted for a mom or a dad or for my brothers are non-existent. And I have to realize like these relationships are dead. They're not fruitful. They're never going to serve me. They're never going to do right by me. And I have to get over it. So literally mourning them as if they were no longer on the earth was the next step that I had to do in my personal journey. And so this probably took the longest amount of time, especially because they were still crossing the line and finding other ways to communicate, even through like sending me letters through like snail mail. They were still trying to find ways to be abusive. And eventually I got to the point where I just didn't have any emotional connections to them. And I think this is also something with my personality. Just how I grew up is when I get to a certain point, I can just turn a switch off with most people. But now that I do not have contact with my family, I'm happier than I've ever been. I have a relationship with God that has surpassed anything that I've ever could have imagined. When I started getting closer to Him, He filled in all of that loneliness, the need for acceptance that I was having, the need for approval that I had was no longer there. I just feel like a completely different person, and I'm so happy. And I can look back and I can say, you know, I'm thankful for everything that I've gone through, because now I can help somebody else heal from this. And I think that I was definitely like a weak type of person. I cared what people thought about me. I cared about my family not loving me the way that they should. It was a huge weight that I couldn't have the mom and dad that I deserved. And I just never thought that I could get to this point. But with God, anything is possible. He makes anything possible. You don't have to put yourself in these toxic cycles. You don't have to be a part of the madness. Even if it's difficult, you may have to, you know, cut yourself off from your family. But it's for your benefit. Nothing should come before your health. And it started affecting me health-wise. And it started, you know, all the healing that I did in therapy, it started, you know, causing me to regress. And nobody's worth your mental health. Nobody's worth your physical health causing you stress and sleepless nights and crying. Like, nobody deserves to be put through that. Because now I have my cousins that I'm really close with, and I have a group of friends from my previous job that I'm really close with. I have an amazing job now that God has just like put His hand on me, and I just am so grateful. I don't carry anger or resentment in my heart. I pray for my family. I pray for their prosperity and for their kids and all of that. I wish them well. I don't carry any bitterness in my heart towards them. If I see them, I'll say what's up, but that's gonna be it. So I did not even say that, but something that I'm just really happy that I did. And I never thought that I would be strong enough to do this, and I never thought I would be on YouTube talking about this, but it's something that I think a lot of people have to deal with nowadays. There's a lot of generational curses over our families, and a lot of our, you know, our matriarchs and patriarchs, they don't want to get better, and you don't deserve to live like that. So I hope that this video was helpful to someone and made sense, because when I'm recording, it just never makes sense, but when I watch it back, it does. So I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'm sure that God will put another video on my heart to make soon, and I hope you guys have a blessed day.